Welcome back to New Story. Title: HOA put 28 homes on my private island. I watched them finish building, pulled out the deed in court. You ever watch someone spend $60 million building on your land, all while knowing you're going to take it all away? I have. It's a specific kind of feeling, a cold, patient anger. It's the kind of anger that lets you sit back and watch and plan. It's the kind of anger my grandfather taught me to nurture. "Don't get mad, Mark," he used to say, whittling on his porch. "Don't fight them. Just be smarter. And always, always, always pay your taxes on time." That advice, and a very old piece of paper, is how I ended up owning 28 brand new luxury homes, a desalination plant, and the shattered reputation of a very smug HOA president. My story starts with an island. Not a tropical paradise, but a rugged, misty piece of rock and pine in the Pacific Northwest. It's called Heron's Beak Island. It's about 500 acres of old-growth forest, rocky beaches, and absolute thundering silence. My great-grandfather won it in a poker game in 1923. The family has held on to it ever since. When my grandpa Joe passed away, he left me two things. The first was a small, rundown shack on a quarter-acre of mainland property. It was just a place to park a car and launch a boat. The second, though, was the island, all of it. His will was simple. The shack is for living. The island is for being. Never sell the island, Mark. It's the last quiet place on Earth. He also left me a long leather-bound tube. Inside was the original deed. It was on thick, almost cloth-like paper with handwritten script and a heavy wax seal from the county clerk, dated 1923. Tucked in with it were the tax receipts for every single year since. My grandpa wasn't kidding. For the first few years, I lived in the shack, just like he suggested. I worked remotely as a cover. Most days, I'd take my little aluminum boat, the Sea Hog, and make the 20-minute trip to the island. I'd walk the trails. I'd watch the eagles. I never built anything. I never even camped there. I just let it be like he asked. The mainland was a different story. The area was growing. My little shack was slowly getting surrounded. A big developer bought the 1,000 acres of old timberland behind my property. They put in a massive gated community, Bayside Landing. It was the usual beige and gray trim monstrosity, McMansions packed together with names like the Kingfisher and the Raven's Nest. And of course came the Homeowners Association, the Bayside Landing HOA. I didn't think twice about them. I wasn't a member. My little quarter-acre shack was grandfathered in, an island of peeling paint and their me of manicured lawns. I was just the weird, quiet guy in the shack down by the water. Then I decided to travel. I'd saved up a good amount of money. I was young. I wanted to see the world. I put my few belongings in storage, locked up the shack, and planned to be gone for a year, maybe two. I'd work from my laptop, see the world, and come back. Before I left, I met with the family lawyer, Sam, a wonderful, crusty old man who had known my grandfather. I gave him my forwarding address, my power of attorney, and a specific instruction. No matter what, make sure the property taxes for the shack and the island are paid. Sam nodded, his glasses glinting. "That's the most important part, kid. A good title is built on paid taxes. You go have fun. I'll keep the lights on." I was 6 months into my trip, working from a hostel in Thailand, when the first email arrived. It was from the Bayside Landing HOA. Subject: Notice of Violation, Unattended Grounds. It was addressed to Current Resident. It said that my mainland shack was in violation of community standards. The paint was peeling, the weeds were high. I was being fined $100. I rolled my eyes and forwarded it to Sam with a note. "Can you handle this? I'm not part of their HOA." Sam's reply was quick. "Don't you worry, I'll send them a nice, boring letter." A month later, another email arrived. This one was more aggressive. Subject: final notice. Come in the area encroachment. This one was different. It mentioned unauthorized use of HOA common property and unmaintained wilderness area. It included a map. My blood went cold. The map showed the entire Bayside Landing development, and just offshore, circled in red, was Heron's Beak Island, labeled Bayside Landing Common Area Phase 2. I immediately tried to call Sam. The connection was terrible. I sent him a frantic email attaching the map. They think they own my island? It took 2 days for Sam's reply to come through. It was not the frantic, angry email I was expecting. It was calm. It was happy. Mark, I've done some digging. This is fascinating. I need you to stay calm, and I need you to stay gone. Keep traveling. Go somewhere remote. Enjoy yourself. Just keep forwarding me everything. I wrote back, "What did you find? What's going on?" Sam's reply was, "The developer who built Bayside Landing is a sloppy, cut-rate idiot. When he filed the master plat with the county in 1994, he included Heron's Beak Island in the legal description. He just took it. He probably saw an undeveloped island on the map and assumed it was state land or part of the timberland tract that he'd bought." But what about my deed? Your deed is a senior in-time filing, Mark. It's ironclad. But it's also old. It's filed in the county's physical archives, not the digital system. This idiot developer's plat is digital. The overworked county clerk just rubber-stamped it. As far as the digital world is concerned, your island is part of their HOA. They've been paying a tiny amount of property tax on it as undeveloped common land. You, however, have been paying tax on it under a separate, older parcel number. The county's been double-dipping. This is the juiciest, most beautiful legal mess I've ever seen. "So what do we do?" I wrote. "We do nothing," he wrote back. "You're out of the country, unreachable. They've made a terrible public mistake, a multi-million-dollar mistake. Let's let them finish it. Let them build their own gallows, Mark. Every nail they hammer is another dollar they'll owe you. Go, have fun, send me a postcard." So I did. I went to Vietnam. I hiked in the Himalayas. I was completely off the grid. And I set up a Google alert for Bayside Landing and Heron's Beak Island. A month later, the first alert hit my inbox. It was a link to the Bayside Landing community newsletter. The front page was a picture of a beaming, sharp-looking woman with a helmet of blonde hair. Her name was Brenda. She was the HOA president. Project Eco Retreat, a new jewel for Bayside Landing. The article, written by Brenda, was full of corporate buzzwords. Synergy, sustainability, activating our most underutilized asset. They were going to build a luxury eco-retreat on my island. It was for HOA members only, a place to get away, to recenter themselves. It would feature 28 prefabricated, low-impact cabins, a community lodge, a new dock, and a desalinization plant. They had secured a $60 million loan from a commercial bank, using the entire HOA's assets as collateral. They were breaking ground next week. I forwarded it to Sam. His reply was a single sentence. "Oh, this is going to be magnificent." I watched, from thousands of miles away, as they destroyed my island. The local paper's website ran stories. I saw pictures. A massive barge floating in the bay, bulldozers landing on my quiet, rocky beaches. I saw drone footage of them clearing trees, ancient pines, trees my grandfather had probably sat under. They were clearing them to make view corridors for the new cabins. Every month, the HOA newsletter would post updates. Brenda, in a hard hat, pointing at things. Phase 1, complete. The foundations are poured. Phase 2, the cabins are arriving. These beautiful, pre-built homes are a testament to modern efficiency. I saw the pictures of the cabins. They weren't shacks. They were Pacific modern glass and cedar boxes, floor-to-ceiling windows, wrap-around decks. They were installing solar panels, a massive diesel generator for backup, and a full-on water treatment plant. They were building a small town on my island. This went on for 18 months. I was in a constant state of cold fury. I wanted to fly home, to stand on the beach with my grandfather's shotgun and scream at them. But Sam's voice was always in my head. Let 'em finish. The trap isn't sprung until the mouse has the cheese. Finally, the day came. The Bayside Landing website posted a grand opening announcement. There was a ribbon-cutting ceremony. The mayor was there. Brenda gave a speech about community vision and taming the wilderness. They had a new name for it. They called it Bayside Retreat. The next day, I booked a flight home. I landed at SeaTac, rented a car, and drove to Sam's office. He looked up from his desk, a huge grin on his face. You look tan. I've thought they did it. It did, he replied, tapping a thick file on his desk. They've even filed the notice of completion with the county. Every I dotted, every T crossed. They've documented their own trespassing in triplicate and had it notarized. So now what? Now you go say hello, Sam said. Take your boat. Be polite, see what they have to say. Don't mention me, don't mention the deed. Just go see your property. The next morning, I drove to the shack. It was just as I left it, though the HOA's violation notices were plastered all over the door. I ignored them. I walked down to my little dock, pulled the tarp off the Sea Hog, and thankfully, the old motor started on the third pool. The trip over was different. The silence was gone. As I got closer, I could hear the faint thrum of a generator. And then I saw it. The new dock was massive. It was a deep water dock, capable of handling a small ferry. It stuck out like an ugly wound from the island's main cove. Tied to it was a sleek, brand-new Bayside Retreat shuttleboat. As I puttered up in my rusty aluminum boat, 2 people on the dock turned to look. One was a security guard in a crisp uniform. The other, oh yes, it was Brenda, in the flesh. She was wearing a white linen suit and sunglasses, holding a clipboard. I cut the motor and drifted toward the dock. "Can I help you?" Brenda called out. Her voice was sharp like broken glass. "I'm just looking around," I said, grabbing the piling. I'm sorry, this is private property. This is Bayside Retreat for members of Bayside Landing only." "Oh, I know," I said, looking past her at the new gleaming lodge just up the path. "You've done a lot of work here." "That's right," she puffed up. "I'm Brenda, the association president. I'm the one who visioned this project." "I bet you are," I said. I looked at the no trespassing Bayside Landing HOA sign nailed to a tree. My tree. "You'll have to leave," the security guard said, stepping forward. He was a big guy. "I don't think I will," I said, keeping my voice calm. "This is Heron's Beak Island, right?" Brenda laughed, a short, barking laugh. "We're rebranding. It's Bayside Retreat now. And you are trespassing. This is HOA property." "That's funny," I said, finally looking her in the eye, "because I'm pretty sure it's my property. I think you're on my land." Brenda's face froze. She looked at my rusty boat, my old jeans and flannel shirt, and she made a decision. She decided I was nobody. That's absurd, she scoffed. We have the plat, filed with the county. We've owned this for 20 years. I have the deed. From 1923. Brenda's face did something complicated. It was a flicker of something. Fear? No, not fear. Annoyance. She was annoyed. You're one of those sovereign citizen types, aren't you? Look, buddy, I don't know what old-timey paper you think you have, but our $60 million eco-retreat and our county-filed plat trumps your little fantasy. She turned to the guard. Gary, get him out of here. If he argues, call the sheriff's department and have him arrested. She turned and marched back up the dock, clipboard high. I'll be hearing from my lawyer, I called after her. I'm sure I will, she yelled back, not even bothering to turn around. I went straight to Sam's office. She called me Buddy, I said, sitting down. Sam was leaning back in his chair, hands steepled. And she told me her $60 million investment trumps my little fantasy. She said that? Oh, Brenda, you magnificent fool. So we sue them? No, Sam said, holding up a finger. We don't. We wait. Wait for what? We let them sue us. You see, you've just clouded their title. You've appeared, you've made a claim. They can't sell, refinance, or do anything with that $60 million loan. They have to get rid of you. They will try to quiet title. And when they do, they'll be doing it in a courtroom. And that, my boy, is where we'll spring the trap. It took less than a week. A very stressed little process server showed up at my shack and served me papers. The Bayside Landing Homeowners Association was suing me, Mark Jensen, to quiet title and for frivolous harassment. The court date was set for 6 weeks later. For those 6 weeks, the island was a hive of activity. I'd watch from my shack with binoculars. The Bayside Retreat shuttle boat was running constantly. HOA members were using the cabins, having parties. They were acting like they'd already won. Then the day of the hearing came. The courtroom was small and stuffy. The entire HOA board was there, sitting in the front row, right behind Brenda. They all looked smug. They were dressed in their expensive, casual Friday best. Their lawyer was a slick-looking guy from a big Seattle firm. He was all pinstripes and confidence. The judge, a no-nonsense woman named Judge Meary, called the case. Bayside Landing Homeowners Association versus Mark Jensen. Mr. Davies, please proceed. The HOA lawyer stood up. He painted a beautiful picture. He talked about community. He talked about abandoned, neglected land. He talked about blight. He described his clients as civic-minded and eco-conscious leaders who had invested $60 million into improving a worthless piece of public land. Then he pointed at me. And then he shows up, a man who, by his own admission, abandoned his family's property for years. He comes back, sees the value my clients have created, and he decides to extort them. He's waving around some document from the 1920s claiming he owns it. Your Honor, this is a clear case of a land grabber trying to capitalize on my client's hard work. We have a digitally filed, county-approved plat from 1994. We have our notice of completion. We have $60 million of improvements. We ask that the court extinguish Mr. Jensen's frivolous claim, quiet the title in the HOA's name, and grant us damages. He sat down. The entire HOA board was nodding. Brenda was staring at me, a tiny, vicious smile on her face. The judge looked at our table. Mr. Jensen, Mr. Samuel Jensen. Good to see you, Sam. I thought you'd retired. Sam stood up. He was wearing his grandfather's old tweed suit. Retirement's boring, Your Honor, and you know I can't resist a good property dispute. The judge sighed. Well, what's your response to this, Sam? It seems pretty straightforward. They have a recent approved plat. Sam smiled. It's simple, Your Honor. They have a plat. We have the title. Sam reached into his old leather briefcase and pulled out the tube. He unrolled the 1923 deed and placed it on the judge's bench. What you have here, Your Honor, is the original senior in time certified deed for the parcel known as Heron's Beak Island, granted to my client's great-grandfather, a deed which has never been extinguished, sold, or otherwise altered. The HOA lawyer jumped up. Objection! That document, it's old. Sam didn't even look at him. It is old, counsel. That's rather the point. In property law, as you know, first in time is first in right. But the plat, Your Honor, Sam continued, was based on a gross surveying error in 1994. An error, I might add, that the developer was made aware of and chose to ignore, pushing it through a busy county office. An error does not extinguish a valid senior deed. It never has. Sam then reached back into his briefcase. But the deed is only half the story. The HOA lawyer claims my client abandoned the land. This is the part I find most interesting. He pulled out a stack of receipts bound with a rubber band. These, Your Honor, are the property tax receipts for Heron's Beak Island. Here's the one from 1923. And here's 1924 and 1925. In fact, I have here an unbroken chain of paid tax receipts from 1923, right up to, let's see. He pulled one from the top. Yes, this one, paid 3 months ago for the current tax year. All paid by my client's family, and now by my client. The land was never abandoned. It was just quiet. The judge was looking at the deed. She was looking at the tax receipts. The HOA lawyer was turning a very pale gray color. Brenda had stopped smiling. Your Honor, the lawyer sputtered. Even so, the doctrine of leches, he watched us build. He let it hop, and he's not entitled. And adverse possession. Sam let him finish. Adverse possession, counsel. That requires possession to be hostile and exclusive for a period of 10 years. My client was paying taxes the entire time, which negates your claim. And as for leches, or letting us build, my client was traveling. He was unreachable. The moment he returned and was confronted by your client, he informed them the land was his. They, and I have the affidavit from the security guard, laughed at him and told him to get lost. Mark, is that right? I said she called me Biddy. The judge looked up. Her face was grim. Mr. Davies, to the HOA lawyer, your clients committed a $60 million trespassing. They built a small town on land that was and has never been theirs. Mr. Jensen's title is clear, valid, and senior. This isn't even a difficult question. She banged her gavel. The petition to quiet the title is denied with prejudice. The title to Heron's Beak Island rests as it has since 1923 with Mr. Mark Jensen. The courtroom was silent. Brenda looked like she'd been struck by lightning. Your Honor, the lawyer yelped. What about our improvements? The $60 million investment? Judge Mary looked at him over her glasses. That, counsel, is a matter for a different lawsuit. I suspect is the one Mr. Jensen will be filing, let's see, today, for trespassing, damages to the timber, and a request for ejectment, which is the legal term for get your junk off my lawn. Case dismissed. The hallway outside the courtroom was chaos. Brenda was screaming. Not words, just screaming, a high-pitched animal sound. She was screaming at her lawyer, She was screaming at the board members. Sam and I just walked past. We filed our lawsuit an hour later. The charges were simple: trespassing, damages to the timber, and a request for ejectment, which is the legal term for get your junk off my lawn. The HOA's world fell apart. Their bank immediately called their $60 million loan. Their insurance provider, when they saw the with prejudice ruling, denied their claim. It turns out willful large-scale trespassing isn't covered under most policies. They were, to use a legal term Sam taught me, completely and totally hosed. We all met in a sterile conference room 2 weeks later. The HOA board, their lawyer. Brenda was there, but she wasn't leading. She was just sitting, shrunken in the corner. Sam laid out the options. You have two choices, Sam said, sliding a piece of paper across the table. Option 1, you comply with our lawsuit. You remove every structure, every foundation, every septic pipe, every inch of wire. You will barge in soil to replace the soil you removed. You will replant 2,500 mature growth pine trees. You will return Heronspeak Island to its exact 1923 condition. We have an environmental impact study that estimates this will cost you approximately $120 million. The board president, a man who looked like he was about to have a heart attack, just whimpered. Or, Sam said, option 2. He slid over a second piece of paper. You hand over the keys. You sign over the Bayside Retreat Corporation, the shuttle boat, the generators, the desalinization plant, the dock, and all 28 cabins fully furnished to Mr. Jensen, free and clear. You will sign a legal document stating they were a voluntary gift to avoid tax implications. You will also pay my client a one-time, non-negotiable cash settlement of $5 million for the trees you cut down and the emotional stress you caused him. In exchange, he will agree to drop the lawsuit and not pursue you for any further damages. Brenda shot out of her chair. That's theft! Sam looked at her, his face like stone. No, ma'am, that's a donation. You have 24 hours to decide. If you do not accept option 2, we will proceed with option 1. And mark my words, I will enjoy watching your bulldozers tear down your own buildings. I will personally count every single tree. They took option 2. They had to pass a massive special assessment on all the other homeowners in Bayside Landing, the ones who never even used the island. Their deals quadrupled overnight. Brenda was impeached as president, and I heard she and her husband had to sell their home to cover their part of the assessment. And me? I'm writing this from the porch of what was the presidential cabin, the one Brenda had picked out for herself. It has the best view. The island is quiet again. The generators are off. The shuttle boat is docked. I don't live here. It's too much. I'm still in my grandpa's shack on the mainland. I'm using the $5 million to set up a trust. The island is being turned into a nature preserve. The 28 cabins are being offered free of charge as a retreat for scientists, artists, and veterans, a place for people who actually need a quiet place. I kept one cabin for myself for when I want to visit. Sometimes I sit on this porch drinking my coffee, and I look across the water at the beige and gray trim houses of Bayside Landing. I can almost hear them complaining about their HOA fees. I paid my taxes. I was smarter. And now the island is finally, truly quiet again, just like Grandpa Joe wanted.